নিউ ইয়র্কের জ্যাকসন হাইটস থেকে আপনাদেরকে স্বাগত জানাচ্ছি। আমি খালেদ মুহিউদ্দিন। আজ আমরা একটা বিশেষ সাক্ষাৎকারে আপনাদের আমন্ত্রণ জানাচ্ছি। আজ আমাদের সঙ্গে যিনি রয়েছেন তিনি আনফরচুনেটলি বাংলা বলেন না, বাট আমি আপনাদেরকে কিছুটা অনুবাদ করতে সাহায্য করব। আমি আর কথা বাড়াচ্ছি না। লেট মি ইন্ট্রোডিউস দি ম্যায়োরাল ক্যান্ডিডেট, দি অনারেবল অ্যাসেম্বলিম্যান Zoran Mamdani. Mr. Mamdani, let me, before I introduce you to my audience, can you please introduce yourself
Yes,
a bit?
absolutely.
And we would like to hear a bit of story as well. I mean, you are an Uganda-born, Manhattan-raised Indian Muslim who is running for mayor this year. I mean, wearing this bunch of hats, it's not easy, and still we want to hear your childhood story, especially the sneaker one. And if you start with Bangla, it will be very nice. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Well, আমার নাম Zoran Mamdani. I was born and I grew up initially in Kampala, Uganda, in East Africa. My father's family is from Gujarat. They moved to East Africa about 200 years ago.
Okay.
My mother's family is from Punjab. They still live in India today.
Yeah, and introduce your mother as well.
Yes,
She's
yes,
like
yes,
really,
yes. My mother is Meera Nair.
Yeah.
She is an incredible film director, if I can say so myself.
Yeah.
And she raised me with the saying that if we don't tell our own stories, no one else will.
Yeah.
And so much of this campaign is about telling the stories of New Yorkers. And this is a city that is near and dear to my heart. I moved here when I was 7 years old. I grew up in Morningside Heights.
Yeah.
I went to high school at Bronx Science. I went to college in Maine. And when I came back to New York City, first I worked in local politics for a little while, working to help elect the first South Asian City Council member, the first Arab City Council member, and then I became a foreclosure prevention housing counselor. So I worked with low to moderate income homeowners in Jackson Heights and Richmond Hill across Queens at an organization called Chaya CDC to keep them in their homes.
Yeah. For our audience, Mr. Mamdani is only 33. I mean, close to 34, right?
Close to 34 years.
But he's an achiever. I mean, he's a musician, a rapper, turned politician. And his stage name was Mr. Cardamom, right?
Yes, it was.
So he's many things. But let's come to some questions.
Please.
Like, your popularity is growing. I mean, you were facing a Democratic primary within 50 days?
44 days.
44 days, yeah. So your popularity is growing, but may I ask you, you are popular among us. Us means like, I'm not that young, but young, immigrant, liberal, and Muslim community. And may I say, not among billionaires. So my question is like the other New Yorker, I mean, who are not young, who are not immigrant, who are not liberal, who are like a bit rich, a bit. So they are your constituents too. I mean, what is your offer to them? They are like.
You know, to be the mayor of New York City, you have to be the mayor for every New Yorker, not just the ones who support you. And this is a city of 8.5 million people. And they deserve to have a leader that looks at each of them as a constituent. And our campaign is about affordability. We are living in the most expensive city in the United States. It's the third most expensive city in the world. It's tied with Zurich. And even if you are a New Yorker like the one you described, older, not liberal, you are still feeling the pain of this affordability crisis. Even New Yorkers who make $200,000 a year, I hear from them about how expensive it is for them to go to the grocery store, how they used to be able to afford everything that they wanted, and now they're feeling their pockets start to be pinched. And ultimately, even if it's not affordability, you hear from many New Yorkers about quality of life. They want a cleaner city. They want a better run city. They want a city where they do not feel that sense of anxiety. So much of that comes back from a city government that is fully funded, a city government that has a mission to deliver a world-class city for a world-class people. And that is also at the core of our campaign.
Yeah, I can see. I mean, I think for your age as a politician or the tenure you are in the politics, you are being most interviewed. I mean, the media is after you. So I know affordability is your middle name now. But but the thing is, some says, I mean, if your vision comes true, then the whole city will be bankrupt. I mean, there will be no. I mean, you are too good to be true. I mean, yes, I would tell my audience that's like you are campaigning for affordable housing, free public transit,
free buses,
childcare for free, corporate tax reform, community safety. But all those combined, actually, what do you think?
I think for a long time,
yeah.
Politicians have told New Yorkers that to dream of anything more than today is unrealistic. We have asked New Yorkers to celebrate crumbs that can't even feed their family. Yeah. My agenda, the core agenda, is about freezing the rent, making buses fast and free, delivering universal childcare. Mm-hmm. Freezing the rent does not cost any money from the city. Mm-hmm. It just limits the amount of an increase that can happen for rent-stabilized housing, 2 million tenants. Yeah. Making buses fast and free has a cost of about $700 million.
Okay.
Universal childcare has a cost of, let's say, about $6 billion. Mm-hmm. This is significant money, but this has to be understood in the context of a city budget that has $115 billion every year. Mm-hmm. State budget has $252 billion every year. So we've put forward a plan that will raise $10 billion every year to pay for our entire agenda and create a little bit of our ability to Trump-proof our city, to be prepared for the cuts that will come from Washington, D.C. We raised this $10 billion by raising the top corporate tax rate to match that of New Jersey, just the same as our regional neighbor, to raise income taxes on New Yorkers who make $1 million or more every year by a flat 2% increase, just $20,000 more for someone making $1 million. It's like a rounding error. Those two things together raise $9 billion. And the final billion of the $10 billion comes from good government reform.
Okay.
Actually bringing down the cost of procurement, hiring more fiscal auditors, collecting the fines and fees the city is owed. These things together will fund our agenda and more. It's not too good to be true. It's actually coming soon to a city near you.
But to me, you are sounding a bit like modern day Robin Hood, who wants to tax the rich and
to feed the poor.
To feed the poor. But I don't know. I mean, do you really think it will happen because the corporate taxes, you want to increase it or match it like the New Jersey as it is now? So the businessman, the entrepreneurship will remain the same, or you are just, I mean, if you increase the corporate taxes, I found you saying people that it will, I mean, New York law states that you don't have to have business headquarters here. You just have to have business to raise the taxes. But still, if they decide they would think some other way to evade the taxes, does it help you out, guys?
I think it's important to say that the corporations we're talking about are a significant minority of the number of businesses. Yeah. We are talking about those that are making profits of more than $3-4 million every year. That is very different from the small businesses across our city. And as you said, our tax law applies to anyone that does business here.
Yep.
And we have an economy of about $1.3 trillion. If New York State was a country, it would have the 10th largest GDP in the world.
Yep.
No one is going to stop doing business here if they can avoid it. And that is how we can ensure we raise the revenue to also increase worker retention at these businesses. Because when you speak to a business owner, they will tell you one of their issues is, I cannot keep my employees on because they cannot afford to live in this city. This is money that will make this city more affordable for their workers as well. And this is money that I know we can win because when I first got to the state assembly in 2021, we had a governor, Andrew Cuomo, who did not want to raise taxes on corporations or on the wealthiest New Yorkers. We overcame his objections and we raised about $4 billion in new revenue.
Yeah.
That fight is the same fight we won then that we're going to win again. And I've had the experience of doing so and I will deliver it once more.
Yeah, I mean, hearing the name of the ex-governor, your rival now. I was looking for your social media handles and pages where I can quote you where you says, "I ask you to judge me by the enemies I have." Who are your enemies actually? I mean, you actually wrote it. I mean,
this was about Paul Singer.
Yeah. Tell me about it. I mean, who are your enemies actually? I mean, branding someone as enemy, are you making more enemies?
No, I'm also quoting the words of FDR.
Okay.
In this tradition of American politics that says, I welcome the opposition of New Yorkers who have made money off of this crisis, specifically billionaires. Paul Singer is someone who donated more than $1 million to Donald Trump.
Yes.
This is someone who is indicative of the kinds of interests that are lining up behind Andrew Cuomo. People who have made an immense amount of money, who are threatened by a city that is fair and a city that refuses to keep padding their pockets at the expense of the working class. But
you are like, do you think how, I mean, I'm coining these things because I want to be a bit nice. Please. I don't know, because you are not so nice always. We can see you raise your voice, you go fight against the trooper. So how do you, how do you describe yourself that as like, how does it fit you? I mean, you are, sometimes don't you think you are representing a part of people, not the whole?
You know, I am someone who I seek to always be agreeable in the manner in which I discuss issues with people, even if we disagree on the issue itself. But in the instances you're speaking of, when I was shouting at Tom Homan, the so-called border czar of this country from the Trump administration, I'm also someone who's willing to fight. And I think too often, especially for Democrats in our country, we are not willing to fight for what we believe in. We want to sit and wait at the opportunity when it is given to us. We have to sometimes take those opportunities to speak up for Americans whose questions are not being answered by this administration.
How is it working? I mean, it's helping you, or like...
I think I've heard from many New Yorkers that they want someone who will stand up to Donald Trump. And they were taken aback when Andrew Cuomo announced his campaign, and he first described Donald Trump as a fellow Queens boy, as someone he could get along with. And what we have said is, when Donald Trump wants to arrest New Yorkers on the basis of their background, or whether they're Palestinian, or they're undocumented, or they're trans, whatever it may be, if he is attacking those New Yorkers, we will stand up for them. Now, if Donald Trump wants to deliver cheaper groceries like he ran his campaign on, we will say we can work with you on that, because we have a plan to deliver cheaper groceries.
Speaking of Palestine, I mean, you have branded yourself, consciously or unconsciously, as like not anti-Israel, but you are like a very strong voice of the oppression of some. So what do you think? I mean, but in one interview, you actually stated that if Mr. Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, comes to New York, and if you were mayor at that point of time, you would arrest him, or you would make him arrested. Though United States of America didn't sign the ICC, it's not the signatory. So how do you, explain that, and or my apprehension is, don't you think that you would lose some support or lose some ground?
I think what we've seen is, in this country, too much of our politics is inconsistent. People do not know what to expect of a politician, because a politician picks and chooses which issue they're going to apply the same values for. And what I've said is we need to have a consistent politics. If we're speaking about freedom and justice and human rights, it also has to apply to Palestinians. And when I was asked by Mehdi Hasan what I would do if Benjamin Netanyahu was to come to New York City, my answer was to bring our city in accordance with international law. Benjamin Netanyahu is someone who is being charged by the International Criminal Court with genocide.
Yeah, but United States of America is not.
It's not a signatory.
Yeah.
But what we've seen in the past is you have mayors, you have local officials who have seen the contradictions in national law, and they have stepped forward to show the leadership that is missing. And what I would do is to show that same leadership. Because if it is enough for Canada to say that they would not allow Netanyahu to come, we cannot allow our nation to continue to be out of step with that law. And it takes leadership sometimes at the local level to show what it would look like to be in accordance.
I mean, I actually heard saying you that only 50% of New Yorker actually know you. The other 50% might not know you that much. But don't you think that your position, like against Mr. Netanyahu, or pro-Muslim or pro-immigrants, actually the other 50% of the New Yorkers might not like you that much?
You know, I'm confident because what we've found is whenever people start to learn about the campaign, they tend to support the campaign.
Okay.
We are in second place, as you said, with only 50% of New Yorkers knowing who we are. Now, thanks to the fact that we raised the $8 million, the maximum we can spend in the race, thanks to having raised it faster than any campaign in history, we have $7 million on hand for the campaign to advertise its message and to reach the other 50%. Also, that 50% that is yet to hear of us, many of whom are above the age of 50. And this is a message that we now need to share with every New Yorker of every age. And what I've actually heard is the message we have, whether it's about Muslims or immigrants or Palestinians, it's a message of equality. It's not a message of supremacy or a hierarchy. It's a message of equality and consistency. And that is something that resonates with many New Yorkers.
Don't you think, as you are, I have started, like, you actually fight for what you are. You like the world as you are. I mean, for instance, a good-looking Arab, Indian, Colgate smiles politician who is liberal, who is young. But the world is different. And the New York is like the headquarter of the differences. So don't you think, I mean, you are popular among you?
No,
not everyone.
I think there's not enough of me to be in second place. I think there are many more New Yorkers who support us because they see themselves in our policies. I'll give you an example. Though I'm married, I do not have children.
Okay.
Still, our campaign has a focus on our children because we know that they are the future of our city. So we put forward a platform about transforming our schools, making them healthy and green, taking 500 schools and ensuring that they are up to code with HVAC, with solar panels on their roofs, with playgrounds that are not made of asphalt but are instead healthy and green. This is a focus, even though it's not a personal experience of mine, because I think we need a leader that looks beyond themselves, a leader that understands a New Yorker's concern must be their concern, and that, therefore, is part of our campaign.
I mean, can I get back a little? I mean, can you explain me a bit democratic socialism to you? What is democratic socialism?
To me, it is the belief that every person deserves to live a dignified life. And it is the responsibility of government to ensure that they have that dignity. So what that means is in this city, you see, we have some things we agree we need for a dignified life. We believe we need public education, K through 12, public transit, libraries, sanitation, fire department. But there are other things that we know are just as necessary. But we say it's okay if somebody is priced out of it. If we're talking about housing, or food, or internet, these are all things we know are just as important to a life in a modern New York City. But some people can afford it, some people can't afford it. My vision is for a New York City where every New Yorker has the basics that they need, that they can't be priced out of those things. They have them as the foundation of their life.
I mean, in Mayor Mamdani's city, I apprehend somebody can apprehend like that. There will be, everybody will be equal, but someone will be more equal than others. No. You and I will.
It's a very good reference.
You and I will be more equal than the rest
No,
of us. Because we are immigrant, because we are.
In my city, it will be one that looks at each and every New Yorker as being deserving of the same rights, of the same recognition, the same respect of their city. And it's a city that will look to raise the floor for what life is like in this city, that will ensure people can afford to live here. But it's also a city where our small businesses are flourishing, where our industries are one where workers can afford to stay and be a part of them. And in the next weeks, we're going to be putting out a proposal for how we can make it easier to start a small business, to actually continue to be in business. Because too often city government has a complex web of regulations and applications and fees that make it too difficult to thrive here.
I think you remember last time we met, it's like the election time.
Yes.
And the November, the presidential election. So for the first time, and I was surprised, I was listening to your analysis, like when when the result was being declared, the result was coming out from everywhere, especially from New York. You see, for the first time, Mr. Trump or the Republican Party gets more votes than like last time they get so much of votes in 1988. So don't you think people of New York, the New Yorker, now a bit rightist or thinking someone like Trump-like person, then a Mamdani-like person who is like leftist, a bit immigrant-friendly, a voice for the poor. Don't you think they want a bit rightist?
I think what New Yorkers want is change. And as you said, in the country of the United States, the state with the largest swing towards Trump was New York, 11.5%. And when we saw where that swing happened, it was far from the caricature of Trump voters. It was in the hearts of immigrant New York City. Fordham Road in the Bronx, Hillside Avenue in Queens. I went there to speak to those New Yorkers. And when I asked them, how did you vote for and why? I heard many say, either I did not vote or I voted for Trump, and I did so because I remember having more money in my pocket 4 years ago. These were voters who were struggling to survive and who saw one campaign, as insincere and ridiculous and horrific as we know Trump to be, they saw one campaign speaking to that affordability crisis, speaking to that deep desire for change, and speaking to the struggle that they were living through. And it is a lesson for us as Democrats that if we do not address the difficulties that working people are facing, another party will exploit those same difficulties. And as you said, about 100,000 more New Yorkers voted for Trump than in the last election. But more than 5 times as many, more than 500,000 didn't vote at all. And to me, that's a story of people who don't see themselves in politics. They think of politics as a compromise that has little relevance to their life. Our campaign is offering them a politics that votes for something. And we believe those same voters who voted for Trump, when I told them I'm running to freeze the rent, to make buses fast and free, to deliver universal childcare, they said, I'll vote for you too.
Okay, we are like, thank you so much for your time. This is my last question.
Please.
I want to finish with what's something about you that most people actually do not know? Is there anything?
Oh, something about me that most people don't know.
Yeah, because you are a good singer, we know.
Something about me most people don't know is my middle name.
Okay.
You said my middle name is affordability, but it's also Kwame. And Kwame is a middle name my father gave me. He gave me this name, naming me after Kwame Nkrumah, the first prime minister of Ghana. And he gave me that name to remind me that the struggle we have is a struggle for everyone. It's a struggle that cannot just be for yourself, not just be people who hold your same identities, but everyone who is going through this life and this difficulty. All of them deserve dignity.
Mr. Mamdani, I wish all your success.
Thank you.
And I want to see you as the top candidate, at least in the month of June, and the top fight.
Thank you.
And I wish you all the best. Can you say onek dhanyabad to our guest in Bangla?
You have to say it slower for me.
Onek dhanyabad.
Onek dhanyabad.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mamdani. দর্শক এই ছিল আমরা মিস্টার মামদানিকে শুনলাম আমরা আমরা আশা করব যে আমরা এই নিউ ইয়র্কের এবং মার্কিন যুক্তরাষ্ট্রের আরও এরকম রাজনীতিবিদদের আপনাদের সঙ্গে পরিচয় করে দিতে আপনাদেরকে অনেক 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 ধন্যবাদ। থ্যাংক ইউ সো মাচ।
থ্যাংক ইউ।